Hi friends, welcome. We are going to start a new journey on managerial economics. Friends, the idea here is to get a very deep rooted concept, build up the concept on the different topics that will be covered under managerial economics. Friends, if you build up your concept, if your foundation is strong, then any advanced topic that you are going to study later on, that will be very easy for you. So friends, I shall try to make each and every concept as simple as possible. So in this video today, friends, we are going to see managerial economics. It's an introduction to managerial economics where we will understand what is managerial economics all about, and then we will cover a very important topic, that is the two branches of economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics. We will understand them and then we will see what are the differences. So that's all. So we start the journey. Friends, we are discussing about managerial economics. So if I have to explain you what is managerial economics, I have to break this term into two important terms, that is management and economics. So friends, managerial economics is made up of two distinct terms. One is management and the other is economics. Now first let us understand what is economics. As you know, economics is a science which tries to find out how a human being or individual or organization behave in light of scarce resources. You know that we are in a world where the resources are scarce. Resources are not abundant. Had there been abundance of resources, then there would not have been any problem. But problem arises because we have unlimited wants, but the resources to satisfy those wants is limited. So economics is a science which tries to find out how a human being or how an institution, how an organization behave in light of the limited resources, and that is actually this is what is the idea about what is economics. Now friends, let's understand what is management. You must be aware that there is something called organization, and we generally refer management in relation to organization. So management is how efficiently you are utilizing the organizational resources. Friends, when we say management, we want to see that there is less wastages and the best possible use of resources are being done. So in one hand, economics studies how things or how people or elements behave when there is scarce resources, whereas management tries to make efficient use of resources. So why not we combine these two? Because there is a relation between this with this and this with this. So when we combine these two, we get managerial economics. Then let us define what is managerial economics. Managerial economics is the application of economic theories or economic, you can say, principles in business decision making. So friends, let me just give you an idea by drawing something here. So we have here management, and we have here economics. So we have the problem of scarce resources. Resources are scarce, and economics is a science which deals with how optimally, or you can say how, if the wants are unlimited, how the scarce resources and unlimited wants, they interact with each other through human action or corporate action or organizational action. Whereas in this case, this is management. Management is nothing but it tries to make the best utilization of organizational resources. Right friends? So when we club these two, then there is something new which is formed. We call it managerial economics. Managerial economics. So how do we define managerial economics? We define managerial economics as the application of economic theories. We try to make use of economic theories plus policies or principles, etc. Okay, better call it principles, economic principles, etc. And then we combine them to take business decisions. Okay, how it can help in taking business decisions. So when I say business decision, what are the different business decisions? You know that there are different types of business decision. For example, the pricing decision, it can be the investment decision, it can be the finance decision, it can be the marketing decision, it can be HR, human resource decision, or it can be operations resource decision. So friends, can you see the nexus? Can you see the linkage? So management wants to make the best use of resources. Economics is a science of scarce resource. Combining these two, we get managerial economics. So use theories of economics, principles of economics, apply to business decision making, and you will get your ultimate objective of maximizing the welfare of an organization. So the decisions relating to the price, because what we want to do is what is best for the organization, right? Why? Because in organization many people have put money, right or not? There are investors who have put money, so we want to give them the best so that they are happy, and giving them the best means maximizing their wealth. Okay, so for at this point, how can I maximize their wealth? First we have to take the best decision. How can we take the best decision? When we use the perfect principle and theories relating to price, relating to investment, relating to HR, any areas of management, and then this is how our managerial economics nexus can be established. So having said that, so we understand now what is managerial economics, using economics and managerial decision making, right? So you can say it is an application of economics, or you can say the most applied part of economics is in business decisions, right? Economics, when it is mostly applied in business, when it is applied in business in terms of decision making, so we call it as managerial economics. Now friends, we will now switch over to another important topic of our discussion today, and that is micro and macroeconomics. So because as a student or as a learner of economics, we must have to understand what is micro and what is macro, because many of the microeconomic theories and principles will be applicable in business decision making. Also, since business operates in an environment, okay, in a macroeconomic environment, we also have to know what is macroeconomics. Now let's begin what is micro and what is macroeconomics. So friends, as the name itself tells you, micro means small, macro means bigger. So microeconomics is the studies at the individual level. Okay, we are trying to identify how an individual behaves. So for example, I can say I'm talking about an individual producer, I'm talking about an individual farm, I'm talking about an individual consumer. So this is called microeconomics, means I'm studying an individual unit here. Who is an individual unit? It could be a producer, it could be a consumer, it could be a farm. So here we are talking about just one at a very grassroots level, right? Whereas in macroeconomics, friends, we are actually talking about aggregate. We are not talking about one producer, one consumer, one farm. Rather, we are talking about the economy as a whole. So macroeconomics talks about the aggregate, whereas microeconomics talks about the individual. So in other words, I can say macroeconomics is an aggregated economics, right? It's not me who is saying, actually macroeconomics is also identified or been named as aggregated economics, aggregative economics, because it talks about the aggregates, right? So in microeconomics we are talking about individuals, whereas in macroeconomics we talk about the macro or overall or aggregate, right? Now the question, when we are talking about a microeconomics, we are talking about one individual, we are talking about one supplier, one consumer, one farm. Here our objective is, or we can say central problem. Central problem means what is the main focus? So main focus of microeconomics is price determination, whereas the main focus of macroeconomics is the problem of, what is that? Problem of income and employment. Employment and income. You will understand this in greater details in subsequent videos, where we will understand what is income, what is employment, and here what is the price determination. So again I am repeating, microeconomics talks about individual, macroeconomics talks about aggregate. Microeconomics, here the central problem means major focus is price determination, whereas under macroeconomics the major focus is The problem or major central problem is employment and income. Okay, so determination of employment and income remains the focus of macroeconomics, right? Now, what are the tools for microeconomics? The tools for microeconomics is demand, supply, okay, whereas tools for macroeconomics is aggregate demand, aggregate supply. So if this is demand, that is aggregate demand. If this is supply, that is aggregate supply. Okay. Some more difference between micro and macro. See, I have not explained you what are they, but I am just explaining the difference, and that gives you an entire concept. Okay, it builds up the concept. Now coming to what is what we can get, what we can know out of microeconomics. Out of microeconomics, we can know individual savings, individual consumption, okay, individual investments. These things we can know under microeconomics. Whereas under macroeconomics, we can know about inflation, we can know about employment, we can know about the you can say there are different parameters, like we can know about national income of an economy, the price changes in an economy. Okay, price change is also known as inflation. So by now you understand macroeconomics talks about macro parameters, right? Like inflation, like unemployment, like you can say national output. Whereas in microeconomics, we want to know what is the production, savings, investments, okay, at individual levels. Fine, friends. So these are some of the points that differentiates what is microeconomics and what is macroeconomics. But you should know micro deals with the individual levels, whereas macro deals with the aggregated levels. Here we are talking about individual demand, individual supply. There we are talking about aggregate demand, aggregate supply. Here the main focus is on price determination. There the main problem is the income and employment determination. Here the major tools are demand, supply, where the major tools is aggregate demand, aggregate supply. Here we get information about investment, savings, income, etc. There we get information about inflation, about national output. Okay, so friends, this is how they are different. I would like to quote Professor Boulding. So Professor Boulding has defined so beautifully, and that actually explains the difference between micro and macroeconomics. He says that macroeconomic deals not with individual quantities as such, but with aggregates of these quantities, not with individual income but with national income, not with individual prices but with price levels, not individual output but national output. So this demarcates micro and macroeconomics. So friends, we understood what is managerial economics, we have seen what is micro and macroeconomics, but just to give you some touch about the history, let's have an historical touch on this evolution of micro and macroeconomics. Friends, if you want to know which one is older, microeconomics is older because its root can be traced with Adam Smith, who has written a book on the wealth of nations in 1776. Okay, but macroeconomics came later. Okay, I'll tell you who can be credited for the evolution of macroeconomics. So initially the classical economists, they felt that there is less disturbance in the economy. When I say disturbance, what does this mean? They believed that the economy is always at an equilibrium. How the economy will be in equilibrium? When the demand and supply is equal, then the economy is in equilibrium. So classical economists felt that the economy is always at the state of equilibrium, and if there is any disturbance or there is imbalance, that is automatically corrected. But they were proved wrong in the Great Depression of 1930s, where there was economic turmoils and this imbalance lasted for long. And then came an economist, okay, whose name is popular in the what do you say, in the arena of economics, and his name is J.M. Keynes. He wrote a book in 1936, and name of the book is General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money in 1936. Okay, so through this his analysis, he could evident that this imbalances lasted long, and then many of the macroeconomic problems cannot be addressed through your microeconomic lenses. So we have to take into account the macroeconomic perspective, right? So because it is just like you are trying to see something from a much greater height than to see the things from a very less proximity. So from there emerged the importance on macroeconomics. So friends, how can macroeconomics stand helpful? Macroeconomics is helpful because see, whenever we want to know about a nation, what generally we refer to, we want to know this country's income. Income means in terms of national income. We would like to know the country's inflation rate. Okay, that is through price changes. Okay, if any like macroeconomic parameters are just like barometer of performance of an economy. So if we want to know an economy, we have to take help from the macroeconomic indicators, like we have inflation, we have national income, we have gross domestic product. So there are many such things that we are having in our discussion in the following lectures. So friends, for today we can just sum up that yes, the economics stand very useful for our studies of management, and that sets the foundation for knowing the marketing, human resource, investments, finance, etc. Okay, we have also seen the two important branches of economic, microeconomics and macroeconomics, and then I could tell you a little about how macroeconomics has evolved. Initially the emphasis was on microeconomics, but later with many economic experiences the focus shifted to macroeconomics. And then macroeconomics is useful because it not only tells about the health of an economy, but it also helps regulators and policy makers to frame their policies based on these macroeconomic parameters. We will study this in detail in our next lecture. So thank you for watching. Bye bye.